Hey guys, welcome to DrGamerLogic. My name is Chris, and today we'll be taking a look at EarthBound, one of the most underrated games of all time, and because of that, most likely one of the most expensive. I was lucky enough to find this game on eBay for $100 because it had a bad battery in it, and someone tried to duct tape a new battery to it, which didn't work out too well. So I was able to solder a new battery, clean off the residue, and now it's just as good as new. Some things I wanted to go over with this was the difference between the real EarthBound game and then the bootleg, which you see playing behind me. If you want the true play style of EarthBound and want to enjoy it to its full glory, you need to go for the real authentic version of the game. Alright? I'm going to go over the differences. I'm going to open them up, show you the differences inside so you don't get swindled if you're trying at a convention trying to buy old classic games, and you want to make sure you get the right one. I do recommend if you buy games at a convention, bring a screwdriver with you to open it up, because a lot of people are going to try to swindle you, sell you something that is not authentic, so you got to be careful. So let's get to it. Welcome to the inside of the EarthBound cartridges. One of these is authentic, the other is bootleg. Can you tell the difference? Well, just by looking at them, you can tell the one on the right is the authentic, the one on the left is the bootleg. Now I'm going to point out a few differences, so if you're ever in the market to buy an EarthBound game, you'll know what to look for, and you'll know what to do to make sure you're not getting ripped off. Now, for the authentic one, as you can see, it's a much bigger chip. You see the battery is soldered in there, which, like I said, I had to resolder this battery myself. And also, you see that identifying number on the chip. You're going to want to look for that number. Make sure you're getting a legitimate copy of EarthBound. Other than that, on the authentic version, you're going to see the quality of the paint, of the coloring is much better. You're not going to see a glossy finish like on the bootleg copy. And also, everything is going to be centered perfectly. You see the icon on the right side? That is perfectly in the center. Also, you're going to have a much better quality feel to the plastic. Now let's take a look at the bootleg version. This chip is much smaller, as you can tell. One of the first things that's going to jump out at you is the battery holster. This battery holster was not on these Super Nintendo chips back in the day, and they were always soldered on. So if you see a battery holster, doesn't necessarily mean it's bootleg, because sometimes someone might have added one when they were changing the battery themselves, but these never came from the store with these battery holsters. Also, as you can tell, there's no Nintendo markings on here, but don't take that as it's legitimate if there's a Nintendo marking, because those could be faked as well. Also, you can see the little pins on the left where they use to flash the ROM. Now let's take a look at the label. You see the label is more glossy, the color looks more faded. Also, look at the logo I was talking about. You see how it's not centered perfectly, and you can also, if you look closely, you can make out some scan lines in the label itself from the printer. So be very careful. Just touching this cartridge alone, you can feel the texture of the plastic is not good quality. Alright, now that we've seen the inside of these cartridges and know the difference by looking at it between the bootleg and the authentic, now let's talk about some of the other differences between the two. Now, the developers of this game, they worked in some anti-piracy measures into it. So let's say you're playing the bootleg version and you're just walking around town, you're going to have random enemy encounters that you would never have in the regular game. And the enemies will jump out of nowhere when you don't even see them, and also they'll be much more difficult. This is one of the less annoying features of the anti-piracy. you're going to notice some other anti-piracy measures that are much worse. For example, maybe walking through that two-sun tunnel, what's going to happen? Game's going to freeze on you. Then you have to reset it, go back in. But the most devious, horrible thing that the developers could have ever done to unsuspecting bootleg purchasers is once you make it through this harder version of the game, you make it through all those extra random encounters, you make it through those more difficult enemies, you make it through the game freezing on you all the time, what's going to happen when you get to the last boss and almost beat him? The game's going to freeze on you. But this time it doesn't only freeze on you. When you reset the game, your whole entire save is going to be erased. So if you're in the market to buy this game, I recommend buying Authentic. Not only to support the developers, it will make your gameplay more enjoyable, and it's just the right thing to do.